नमस्कार, गुड मॉर्निंग। रात से पूछता हूँ कैसे सहती हो ये एकांत छाती पर अकेले। रात हंस कर कहती है मेरे देह पर एक शब्द लिखकर सुबह। तो रात का अंधेरा चाहे कितना भी घना क्यों ना हो, रात कितनी भी काली क्यों ना हो, सुबह अपने साथ लेकर आती है उम्मीद की एक किरण।
और हर बार की तरह आज भी इस थर्सडे में हम कुछ ऐसी ही उम्मीद भरी खबरें, कुछ ऐसी ही कहानियां और कुछ ऐसे ही मेहमानों से आपको मुलाकात करवाने वाले हैं जो आपके इस पूरे दिन को भर देंगी एक नई ऊर्जा के साथ।
बिल्कुल, अगर हमें मंजिल को पाना है नवमी, तो मंजिल को पाने के लिए जो हमें कदम बढ़ाने हैं उसका सही समय अगर देखा जाए तो वो है आज, इनफैक्ट अभी।
तो बिल्कुल हमारे इस प्रोग्राम का भी जो कहते हैं ना एक सही समय आ गया है शुरुआत करने का। तो शुरुआत करते हैं कुछ ऐसी ही खबरों से जो कि है खास, या मैं कहूँ जो बनी है आज की खास हेडलाइंस हमारे इस पहले सेगमेंट खास खबर एक नज़र में।
NEET undergraduate 2023 results announced. 2 students get a perfect score of 720.
Delhi University to kickstart admission process for all undergraduate courses.
The Sarangi maestro Kamal Sabri wins the World Music Artist Award at the Bakshi International Art Festival in Uzbekistan.
Preparations of G20 summit in full swing. Murals and waste to art themed park being set up across Delhi.
Wimbledon championship winners to now get $3 million each. वैसे नवमी, अगर प्रेरणा की बात की जाए तो एक ऐसी किताब जो बचपन से लेकर आज तक मुझे हर बार प्रेरित करती आई है वो है द डायरी ऑफ अ यंग गर्ल बाय एन फ्रैंक। इनफैक्ट आज का दिन मेरे लिए खास इसलिए भी है क्योंकि 1947 में द डायरी ऑफ अ यंग गर्ल को उनके पिताजी ने उनके मरणोपरांत आज ही के दिन प्रकाशित करवाया था।
वाओ, यानी कि आप ही की तरह अगर आप भी एन फ्रैंक के फैन हैं तो आपके लिए ये दिन तो सच में बहुत ज़्यादा खास है। लेकिन आज का दिन और किन किन चीज़ों की वजह से खास बना ये जानना भी तो ज़रूरी है। तो आइए हमारे अगले सेगमेंट की तरफ बढ़ते हैं जो है दी डे इन हिस्ट्री में, और जानते हैं आज का दिन और क्यों है खास।
On 15 June 1996, the Microsoft Internet was launched by MSNBC. On this day in the year 1988, NASA launched their space vehicle S-213. On this eventful day in the year 1947, the All India Congress accepted the British plan for partition of India on the basis of religious demographics. On 15 June 1908, the Calcutta Stock Exchange Association was established. It is one of the oldest government-owned stock exchange in Asia. 15 June is celebrated as National Smile Day in India. Spreading joy is all that this day is about. Today, that's 15 June, in the year 1950, Indian steel magnate Lakshmi Mittal was born.
देखा जाए तो दुनिया में दो तरह के लोग होते हैं, पहले जो इतिहास को रटते हैं और दूसरे जो इतिहास को रचते हैं।
एंड एक बात तो है सत्या कि कोई भी चीज़ अगर हमें हासिल करनी है, कोई भी मुकाम अगर हमें हासिल करना है तो ना जिद, कहते हैं ना जो लोग जिद्दी होते हैं, जिनमें वो जिद, वो पैशन होता है, वही वो मुकाम हासिल करते हैं। इसलिए मुझे पर्सनली लगता है कि एक जिद, वो एक आग हम सभी के अंदर होनी ज़रूर चाहिए।
बिल्कुल, इसी तरह से पैशनेट और जिद्दी और उस आग को अपने अंदर हमेशा जलाए हुए हैं हमारी आज की पहली मेहमान। एक ऐसी मेहमान जो प्रोफेशन से इंजीनियर थी, लेकिन वो बनी दुनिया की पहली, भारत की पहली आयरन मैन, साथ ही एक बेस्ट सेलिंग ऑथर, एक फिल्म मेकर और एक स्टैंड अप कॉमेडियन भी हैं। और वो हैं जो आज हमारे साथ इस शो पर जुड़ रही हैं यूके से, अनु वैद्यनाथन।
तो स्वागत करते हैं हम अनु वैद्यनाथन जी का हमारे प्रोग्राम डीडी मॉर्निंग शो में एंड जो हमारे साथ लाइव जुड़ी हैं अभी यूके से. हेलो मैम, हाउ आर यू?
I'm very well, thank you. Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. So Anu, I have a question for you because I can
Yes.
see from engineering to stand-up comedy to filmmaking, so
Yeah.
many life choices and amazing choices. So I really want to, I'm actually very curious to know about it. Can you tell us more about it, about your journey, your choices, your experience?
See, my mom was quite a sort of laid-back parent, right? As was my dad, and they had no expectations of me. You know, उन्होंने कहा कि आपको home science करना है करो, arts करना है करो, commerce करना है करो, engineering पढ़ना है पढ़ो. तो they gave me full freedom to choose whatever I wanted to do. But Bangalore was the center of the tech boom, you know, and in the 90s was when every sort of college had a very good engineering program on offer, and I was very interested in mathematics and physics. So for me to choose engineering was kind of a natural step, you know. Although I must say English literature was my other favorite subject, you know, and I didn't quite pick that when I was in high school, you know. So I became an engineer just because of the place I was in. And also I went to Chennai when I was 16, you know, trying to get into the IITs. So I did everything I could to become the best engineer that I could. You know, I ended up with a scholarship to the United States at the age of 18. But I think that engineering as a choice was my own choice. It was something that was self-driven because I loved those subjects very much. And after that, I think I went through the process. I had a couple of degrees, but of course, I was in a very high-pressure engineering college. Purdue University had 5 women in a graduating class of 150 engineers. So if you didn't do some kind of physical exercise, you know, aap pagla jate, right? So I would do just a little bit, you know, I'd run or I'd ride my bike or I'd go for a swim with my friends. And it slowly built up into doing triathlons because I also think that by the time I got into graduate school, the inequities of being a woman engineer became very clear to me, which I was not aware of in the beginning. Because I think in the West, the ratios were quite bad compared to Bangalore. In Bangalore, I think engineering colleges had a 60-40 ratio, you know, women to men or men to women, versus in the US, it was very bad at the time I was in college. So to deal with that disparity, I think sport drew me, right? I was happy to be outside for many hours, just thinking about how to sort of maneuver and how to, you know, put my best foot forward. So sport is sort of that journey. And of course, I started to teach at IIT Ropar right after my PhD. And I met a very nice Punjabi man and we got married. And once you have children, I think sport, for me at least, naturally slowed down because I didn't want to spend so much time doing something when, you know, I had this little cute thing at home that I could go to and play with and who would listen to anything I had to say because, you know, he had no choice, right? So I really enjoyed being a mom. I slowed down quite a lot. I wrote a book. It was called Anywhere But Home. HarperCollins published it. My editor was also a cricketer when she was in college. So she let me write the book I want, you know, to her credit. I think she was the best artistic collaboration I've had in a very long time. And she let me write the book I want. And I think I wrote about what it meant to be a woman, you know, situating myself as a woman doing this very difficult sport. When women's safety was not really the greatest, we had no facilities, you know, the pools were unheated. I remember going to Kantirva Stadium to do my run set, and I would run up to the toilets, and there were no toilets for women, right? A bunch of men would be using the women's toilets, and then you had to tell them, please, I have to go, you know, so leave. And stuff like that. So I think sport was a great adventure, you know, and just being in the situation I was in, you know, training in India, made it for such a fun sort of exploration, you know. And that book basically talked about these adventures, and it went to the long list at the Mumbai Film Festival for an adaptation market. And I had 2 offers from Bollywood to convert it to a film. And I thought to myself, I don't know if I want to sort of, you know, let them appropriate my voice because, you know, they have a certain way of working, which is to basically shun the writer and sort of make the film or take pieces of a book, really. I think that happens a lot in film, right? You take some piece from here, some piece from there, you stitch it all together and somehow you have a story. But the bigger problem was in all those meetings, there were no women. I used to go to these studios, heavily air conditioned. I'd be freezing, and I'd be introduced to everybody around the table. This is the director, this is the, editor, cinematographer. But there were no women there, and I thought to myself, this is a woman's story, and you're going to tell it with an army of men. So I thought, no, I don't think I want to sell my rights. And yeah, I was also, because of my pregnancy, I was slowing down, in my work, because my work is engineering, which required me to travel quite a lot.
Anu,
right? And
अनु, आपसे ये पूछना चाहेंगे यहाँ पर, अभी आपने कहा कि आपके पेरेंट्स ने आपको हमेशा से इंस्पायर किया कि आप जो करना चाहती हैं आप वो कर सकती हैं। अगर आप होम साइंस पढ़ना चाहती हैं तो आप होम साइंस पढ़ सकती हैं, अगर आप आर्ट म्यूजिक जो मर्जी करना चाहती हैं वो आप कर सकती हैं। तो क्या आपने इसी कारण से सब कुछ कर लिया? और दूसरा, आपके पेरेंट्स तो आपके रियल लाइफ इन्फ्लुएंसेस थे ही, इनके अलावा और कौन से ऐसे इन्फ्लुएंसेस रहे हैं आपके जीवन में?
So I think all my choices needed me to travel a lot, right? Sport ke liye, I had to travel to many countries to race. Even if I trained in India under those circumstances, finally the races would be somewhere else. Or, my job always took me to different parts of India. I've taught at Ropar, I've taught at Ahmedabad. So I was always moving. And I think this way of moving made me appreciate that, life is very big. The world is very big. Whatever you're facing is very infinitesimal. It's a small part of whatever the world or your whole life will be like. So I think that's another big influence. Of course, after getting pregnant or having children, I've also come to appreciate stillness. कि अगर आप घर पे हैं तो भी आपके जो भी imaginative process है, it doesn't end. You can always sit at home and have this routine where you're able to sort of cater to your creative call, right? I think that is another big influence is the life I've lived, and the things I've pursued that required me to go so many places, meet so many kinds of people. And I think the third influence is probably simplicity, because I always wanted to know why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? If I said I picked engineering, it's because I loved physics and maths. If I picked sport, it's because I love the outdoors, right? I love being outdoors because I think I wrote half my book on my bike,
Yes.
So
आपकी जो ये फिल्म मेकिंग जर्नी है, इसका एक छोटा सा हमारे पास भी विजुअल है, हम थोड़ा सा दर्शकों के साथ यहाँ पर शेयर करना चाहेंगे।
Me salieron al encuentro el día de la victoria.
सब अपनी अपनी ज़मीन पे खड़े सितारों की बातें करते।
Send me a postcard.
The clouds have to collapse to birth a star in the sky.
शिखंडी को भी तो कीमत चुकानी पड़ी थी।
Ven aquí deprisa, ven, que derrame yo mi espíritu en tu oreja.
Fuck you! और कौन मिलता है बीते हुए सितारों से?
पर कभी-कभी अच्छा लगना चाहिए यार।
नहीं।
Were we chasing?
Gran glamis, noble caudor.
So Anu, how important are filmmaking degrees? What is the attitude of filmmakers and other people that you've faced in the film industry?
I think film industries anywhere in the world are very insular. I think they have their own little groups and, people that they work with. And it's a very, very difficult industry to break into because I think, unlike engineering, there are no job boards, right? Nobody's saying, agar aap competent ho, to yahan pe aa jao, kaam mil jayega. Aisa kuch nahi hai. I think engineering is far easier that way. If you're good enough, you'll find a job. Here, the issue I used to take with even the time I spent in Mumbai was that everybody was talking about the struggle. Apne kitne saal struggle kiya hai, ye kya kiya. And I'm thinking to myself, to be a director or a writer, I think, yeah, struggle is all important and great and everything, but it's also competence, right? You have to be very clear that you're there for a reason and that this is the journey. So I think as an industry, it is very, very inward looking. But that being said, I'm an independent filmmaker, so I'm not really trying to plug into the system and trying to figure a way out, to make my next $20. So I think that is the freedom I have given myself, is that I don't need to fit in. I just need to have creative control in some way. That's the only sort of control I'd ever want in this world of work. And I think that film degrees are really not important, because I think the arts is the last place where you want to colonize with degrees, right? In engineering, obviously, there is a huge requirement of infrastructure, which I don't say filmmaking doesn't need. It absolutely needs it. You need to know how things work. You need to know how things come together. So the time you spend in film school is great, but it's not the only way, or it's not a mandatory thing. Because I think the best artists are also self-taught, and आप कितना सीख लोगे 2 साल 3 साल में आप कितना सीख लोगे, उसके बाद आपको काम भी तो करना है.
बिल्कुल.
And I think
Practical
that
experience
determines.
बहुत ज़रूरी है.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Anu, I have a question for you. Speaking about being a female artist in such industry, so what's your take on it? मतलब what's the present and future of this?
I think being a female artist is very precarious, because I think you have all kinds of judgment at many different points in time. Before you're married, you are judged a certain way. After you're married, you're judged a certain way. When you have children and you travel to work, you're judged a certain way. And our mothers have been working, for donkey's years, right? This is not a new thing. I'm not reinventing the wheel. And I also come from a family of very subtle feminists. My mom and my aunts never needed to shout to get the point across. If they had to get something done, they got it done. And I think that that's the kind of permission I give myself, because I already know that I am set up in a sort of an uneven ground. And I think that being a mother, especially, I find that you have to really tackle people's judgments and also your own expectation of yourself very carefully. Otherwise, your mental health will go for a toss. So I think, I think female artists we are like a dying breed, an endangered species. So the more you support us, that'd be fantastic. It's like investing in your daughters or in your future. That being said, I don't take a one-clap approach, because I also feel like it's our job to raise very strong men, that comes from boyhood, where we tell our sons that, look, there is also this way, mommy can go to work, you can come back, and then you still have whatever expectations of whatever, and I think in my household, definitely seeing my husband pitch in makes a big difference to my children, because they know it's not just mom doing the cooking and dad going out to work, because some days mom also goes out to work and dad does the cooking, and that's okay.
Absolutely.
So
And at this point, we would also like to share with our viewers a few clips from one of your films.
Yes.
Wow, this was amazing. Well, आपसे बात करने का तो बहुत दिल है अनु, but as you know, time ऐसा एक restriction है जिसके लिए हम कुछ भी नहीं कर सकते. But it was nice having you here. Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Next हमारा guest introduction, profile and वो सब.